Hey, you all, welcome. We're so excited that you're here. My name is Amber. I am Watchamber, and I'm the confidence queen and co-founder of Herpes Can Never. I've been called to help women feel unashamed, empowered, and worthy, and I'm using my real life experiences to do so. I'm a certified life coach and entrepreneur, and I have been HSV2 positive since 2018, and I'm asymptomatic. So what we have today is an amazing course. We are going to talk with 3 women who are all HSV positive and who are all have either had a child or currently pregnant with the child, with a special all on pregnancy and herpes. So I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves, and then we're going to get started. Thank you so much for being here. Shayna, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Shayna Singleton, aka the Herpes Goddess, and having me is a big flex. I am the founder of Herpes Can Never Grow, and the largest herpes awareness platform of over 327K, because I inspire people to love themselves more. The mission at Herpes Can Never is to be at war with the stigma until our community feels comfortable being open about their status and proud of their sexuality. I was diagnosed with HSV2 genital herpes in 2015. And the day I found out I had herpes was the same day I found out I was pregnant with my son, Niall. Alexandra?
Whew, that's a big take.
Yes.
That is a big day. I can't wait to hear about it. Hi, I'm Alexandra Harbushka. I'm founder of Life with Herpes. It is an online community for people living with herpes. I'm just really excited to be here to talk about being a mommy, being pregnant. That was one of the questions that I asked when I got my diagnosis. So I am HSV1 positive and HSV2 positive. I got HSV1 in 2003 and HSV2 in 2011. I have a little boy. He's 18 months, and can't wait to start talking about it. All right, Cece.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Sierra Cece Colvin. I am an advocate. I am a program coordinator for an organization called the Well Project. I'm a current CDC ambassador for their Let's Stop HIV Together campaign, owner, founder of Healing is Voluntary, which is my brand. And that is the acronym HIV, because I've been living with HIV since 2008, the age of 20. And I've been living with HSV2 since about 2010. I have a 10-year-old son who will be 11 this year, and I'm currently pregnant with my second child, who is due in like 2 months. Kind of nervous about that. But my first child is living without HIV nor HSV, and we're planning the same for the next one. Yay, I'm so happy to be here, y'all.
Oh my gosh, it's so special. Thank you, queens. I love and appreciate each of you for being here. So we're just going to hop right into the tea. I'm going to ask a question, and then I'll probably go to each of you for more of your backstory. But this is the question I want to start with. That is, I feel like, the number one question. Will my baby be born with herpes? That's the question that I feel like I want to start with, because everybody asked that. And I wanted to hear your take. Obviously, we all know the answer to that, but how you respond and how you share your response with others when you're asked that question specifically. So we'll go to Alexandra for this one, and then you can just pass it along.
Cool. Yeah. Well, there's a big misunderstanding about how herpes is transmitted, right? We just think like, oh, I have it, I'm around you, you're going to get it. When we first diagnosed, or if you're not familiar with herpes, you're like, oh, can I hug people, or am I allowed to be in the same room as people? How is this going to happen? Is my baby just automatically going to get it because I have it and it's in who I am and I'm creating this baby? No, right? No. Let's start from the basic 101 about herpes. It's a skin to skin transmission. So whoever it is, infant, adults, whoever it is, has to come in contact physically with that area. So just because we're growing a baby doesn't mean that it's going to pass through our placenta and go into the baby, right? The big concerns, though, are the actual birth. We don't want it to go into the eyes. That's really the big concern on the medical side. It's not so much that your baby will get herpes. It's getting it in their eyes as a newborn. I'm sure we can talk about more on that. I don't want to get off track on the questions here, but will your baby in utero, the baby is completely protected. Yes. Right? There's no way that baby can come in contact with herpes whatsoever. Again, the big concern is actually the birth, but I'm sure that's a whole other question.
Yes. Thank you, Alexandra. Shayna, go ahead. Thank you for that.
My son's herpes negative. I delivered him vaginally. Herpes is not, you can't pass it down genetically. Herpes lives in our nervous system. I just want to make that clear to everyone. But there is a possibility that you can transmit it through vaginal birth, and that's called neonatal herpes, and it's fatal. So it's important to make sure you're getting tested. It's important that if you know you have herpes, you tell your doctor so he or she can create a plan for you so that you can deliver a healthy baby, because unfortunately, babies' immune systems are not built up enough to handle the herpes virus. So yes, it's possible you can have a vaginal delivery and have a negative baby, but I just want to stress that C-sections are normal. Women get C-sections all the time. Cece?
Yeah, so with my HIV diagnosis coming first, those were the questions that I asked at that diagnosis was, oh my God, like, can I ever have kids? I thought that was taken away from me at the time of diagnosis. Finding out later on that I was also living with an HSV diagnosis, that question came up. But by then I had put so much trust into my medical providers that I kind of just trusted that they would inform me of all the things that I needed to do. To stay safe and to keep the baby safe as well. So I did deliver my first child vaginally, and it is the plan for the second child as well. They started me on treatment for HIV. I was on treatment before I even got pregnant. I was undetectable. As long as I was undetectable at the time of birth, I could move forward with a vaginal delivery. With HSV, the same thing. They started treatment around 36 weeks. And as long as I was not having an outbreak at the time of delivery, I could move forward with a vaginal delivery of that child. So that's the same plan this go around as well.
Thank you.
I want to piggyback on what Cece said that was really important that I liked. I liked everything, but one thing that you said, you really trusted your medical providers and you really trusted your medical team. And I think that that's going to be a really important thing. Day zero, like when you go in and you find out you're pregnant, you need to make sure that you and your doctor are on the same page. Because if your doctor's like, look, I don't deal with this ever, I've never had this, then you need to get a different doctor for your specific thing. If your doctor's like, oh my gosh, I deal with this all the time, this is the normal protocol, then that's probably what you're going to want to go with. And just find out what your doctor doesn't do, what he or she likes. Do they say, gosh, we just do C-sections because of this? Because I've talked to many moms that are like, yeah, my doctor didn't want to risk it. Like whereas I had a vaginal delivery as well. So find out what you and your doctor are most comfortable with, and also pick a game plan, because I've talked to a lot of people that say, hey, I want family members in the room, but I don't want them to know I have herpes. You and your doctor and the medical team need to be on that page. Is there a code word? Is there not a code word? Is there, hey, I'm getting an outbreak, because that birth is painful, right? Like, oh, I think I'm getting one, or I don't know. You need to, again, I guess what I'm trying to say is figure that out before you're in labor. Like, how are we going to deal with this? Because that person is really your advocate.
Perfect.
Love that. Nice. Yeah. Love that. That's so good. Like, which goes into that touched on so many things. So thank you everyone who shared. That was amazing. So here's what I want to go to next. I want to go to any advice you can share. So just advice you would give to someone who maybe that just found out that they're pregnant, right? So we all want to look from those words, and I can give advice. You can hear advice. The doctor could give you advice, but speaking from women who've received their pregnancy, they've been told that they've been pregnant and have had herpes, whether they found it on the same day, you already know, like what goes through your mind, and what advice would you give to a girl who just found out, okay, now I'm pregnant and I have herpes, where should I go? So for this one, Shayna, we'll go ahead and have you start.
Whew. Okay. I guess I can give a backstory real quick. I thought what I had was a razor bump on my right lip of my vagina towards the bottom, but it's in an area where it's like, can be the pink or it can be a razor bump. And it was extremely painful. I went to see the doctor. The doctor was convinced that it was a razor bump. It's a razor bump. You don't have anything to worry about. Like, I don't need to test it. I demanded that the doctor tested the area. She was like, I'm just gonna, I'll just make you happy. I'll get the test done, but I'm pretty sure it's a razor bump. Cool. I haven't heard from the doctor in like 2 weeks. So I thought everything was okay. My razor bump was gone. And now I'm experiencing pregnancy symptoms. Throwing up 4 times a day, sleeping all day. And my partner's like, you're pregnant. I take an at-home pregnancy test. It's positive, but I didn't believe it. I was in denial. I didn't be pregnant. I go to sick call to get a pregnancy test to, confirm if I was pregnant or not. Doctor comes in and she says, I have good news and I have bad news. What do you want first? I'm like, give me the bad news first. She said, well, you tested positive for HSV-2. Had no idea what HSV-2 was. Okay. She can see I was confused. And she said, you have genital herpes, just don't have sex during an outbreak. And then she's like, you ready for the good news? Sure. Give me the good news. You're pregnant. Still waiting on the good news. Good news never came. Good news never came. I went into shock. And a lot of women find out that way. A lot of women that I've talked to found out that way. They get the outbreak and they found out they're pregnant at the same time. I think pregnancy has a lot to do with triggering an outbreak. I don't know. Body's busy making a foot. It might trigger an outbreak. But I was on the other side of the planet. I had no family. I was in the military. The relationship I was in was extremely toxic. I had no idea what herpes was. I didn't know where it came from. I started to blame the person I was with. He gave me herpes. And I went extremely depressed. I was so depressed that I couldn't enjoy my pregnancy. My pregnancy was the worst experience I've had in my life to this day. One of the worst experiences I've had in my life to this day. I didn't get to enjoy the moments, the milestones. I was pushing people away. I was projecting. I didn't even have time to think about my herpes diagnosis just because I became a single woman. I decided to leave my child's father and I was handling and dealing with things on my own. So after that depressing story, I have any advice to give to someone who has just found out they have herpes and they're having a baby is that this herpes is minute. This is only a human experience. Don't let it cloud you so much that you miss moments in your pregnancy. Don't be me. Live in the now. Enjoy your pregnancy. Enjoy your baby. Celebrate this life. You're going to be fine. Your baby's not going to have herpes. Yes, you can still have your baby. My baby is here and he's herpes negative. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Who else wants to join? You guys, let's see. Go ahead, CC.
I'll go. First of all, I want to say thank you for sharing your story, but you just shared something on social media the other day where you were posting pictures of your milestones. And I was looking at your milestones and like, oh, she was so happy. She did all of it. And that just goes to show that you never know what somebody else is going through. So thank you for that transparency. If I had anything to tell anyone, it would be to stay off of Google. Google was not my best friend while at the beginning of either diagnosis, because you're so quick to find, the negative things and, misinformation and all of that. I have found the most support in a community of people that have actually, been through it. I join a lot of different groups of people that are experiencing, whether it's HIV, HSV, single motherhood, like that gives me the most hope And once again, those medical providers. So find you a team of people. We have to always remember that they work for us. We don't work for them. So as Alexandria said, if you're not agreeing with what they got going on, like, you can always change. And it takes some effort and it takes some work, but you should feel comfortable as you're receiving care. You will be fine. The baby will be fine. There are things that we have come so far, it does not have to just be a bad situation. It doesn't have to be that. And it so many times is not that. I've proven it to myself once, and I hope that me proving it to myself can help prove to you that you'll be all right.
Yeah, really, there's nothing else to say on that other than if you are pregnant and you think that you are experiencing an outbreak, find out. Don't be like, it's just something going on with my body. No, like you need to find out, because it is really important that you do know if you have herpes or not. And it is really important that your doctor knows. I've talked to many women. They're like, do I have to tell my doctor? Yes, you have to tell your doctor. Yes, that person is your advocate. They are here for you and they're here for your baby. They are here to make sure that you both are protected. So this is not the time to be like, I don't want to tell anybody. This is the time to say, okay, what are we going to do? Here's our plan. How are we going to get through this? Enjoying hearing what Shayna was saying, how she didn't get to embrace her pregnancy. That hurt to hear that. Because for me, it was one of the most beautiful times of my life. And to hear that was something you didn't get to experience because herpes took it from you is exactly why we're here. Right? Absolutely. We don't want that to happen to anybody else. We don't want it. It's something to be aware of. It's a conversation that needs to happen, but it doesn't need to take over our life or take over our birth, our pregnancy, the milestones, feeling the kicks. It's such a beautiful thing that, we don't get to experience all the time. Yeah.
Thank you. I love that. Yes. Y'all. Woo. Okay. So let me just take a deep breath. I'm going to go to Alexandra with this one because she mentioned it, kind of like the code word. It says, will the nurse tell everyone in the room that I have herpes? So yeah, go ahead,
so
Alexandra.
What was interesting is when I met my doctor for the first time, because I moved from California to Nevada, I had to get a new doctor. And so I meet him for the first time. I'm pregnant. And he goes, oh, I see you have herpes. Like, here's the deal. Don't worry. I won't tell anybody unless you want me to. And I was like, no. The whole world knows. Like, I'm good. And he's like, no. I won't tell anybody. He's like, does your husband know? And I'm like, well, yeah, of course my husband knows. And then he goes, okay, I won't tell anybody else. I'm like, no. The whole world knows. So I'm on a different page than you for this. But in general, I've talked to a lot of women who have not told the other people in the room. They know they have it. Their doctor knows they have it. The doctor will say, hey, in general, hey, we need everyone to clear the room. I need to talk to the mom or whatever. So usually there's a code word or there's some sort of, I need everybody to leave the room. Like, I know when I was there, they waited for Bill to leave the room just naturally to go to the bathroom or go to get a cup of coffee. I don't know what he went to go do. And then they asked me like a series of questions like, are you in a domestic violence relationship? All these questions. And I was like, where did this come from? But these are questions that they do ask you. They want to make sure that you're safe. So again, they will somehow weave it in. But this is a perfect example of have this conversation with your doctor day one and continue to have it if it's a concern to you that like, hey, my mother-in-law doesn't know I have herpes. I don't need her to know. Totally valid, right? Make sure that your doctor's on that page. And I did notice, I think I'm the most recent one here. Yeah, I am the most recent one. I noticed they would talk in code. They'd be like, they would go through like, I was like 39 weeks and 6 days, like 39 and 6. HSV1, HSV2, and they would like whatever other things I have. I don't know. They like just go through and they just say it. They don't say, oh, hey, this one has herpes. Like but I didn't care, obviously. I think it just goes back to make sure that you and your doctor are on that same page and figure something out day one.
Love that. Anyone else want to join in or add anything to that before I move on? I love that.
you had a different experience than me. I was in a military hospital. So they had me create a plan, and I made sure I put in my plan that I was herpes positive, but I was already, communicating that. But in my room, they never once mentioned it. And it was to the point, and I had to ask my doctor again, you do know that I have herpes? He's like, yes, we know. We're gonna, take a full examination of the cervix and the birth canal. Don't worry. We know it's in the charts. So sometimes you won't even hear it in the room. That was just my experience. I wanted to throw that out there. I want to say something that's a little bit off herpes topic. When I was pregnant, I was attending all my appointments by myself. And when it came down to the delivery, I was like, how would my child feel if I didn't let his father in to see him be born? I was thinking about my kid and I wasn't thinking about me. And at the time I had no relationship with his father, and I allowed him to be in that room. And it was the most uncomfortable experience I've ever had. So do what makes you happy and do what makes you comfortable in that delivery room. Don't let anyone feel or pressure you into letting them in that room with you. That is a special moment and you need to enjoy it. It was important for me to bring that up.
Yeah,
I kicked the nurse out.
You kicked the nurse out?
I was like, out. I don't like you. I didn't say I don't like you, but I was like,
she got to go. Well, he got to go. I don't know.
She was gone.
That's the vibes.
It wide open for everybody. I had my mom, my dad, my sister, all of these doctors, and all of the coof and modesty just went out of the window. I wish that I would have, maybe had a plan. I don't know how much it would have changed, but by that point, I was just ready for this child to get out of me. I did not care who knew what. I didn't care how it went, but I just wanted the contractions to end and wanted this to be over. So I feel like I'm in the middle of both of you all's experiences, but definitely there can be a way that nobody has to know what's going on. And you'll notice that some providers have better bedside manners than others and will open it space to ask, whether or not you want someone else to know what you have going on. Some will just assume, and it should never happen, that they will be able to, just because somebody's in the room with you, that you are comfortable with them to know everything that's in your charts. So if you face something like that, I would definitely bring it to the attention of, another person, another provider, someone on staff at that hospital, because it should not happen.
Yes, thank you, Cece. Another hot topic, this is another big one that we get. I'm learning so much, and I'm just taking it all in. Everybody's experiences are so different, but they're similar. I see when Shane is sharing how Alexandra can resonate with something, and then I'll watch Cece resonate with something that it just is all amazing to see how all of our stories are unique, but still we share the similarity somewhere. And this question probably gets asked more than anything, or right after, will my baby be born with herpes, is can I kiss my baby? A lot of people ask, can I kiss my baby? Whether they have HSV 1 or 2, the question is, can I kiss my baby? So I don't know who wants to start with this one. The floor is open, but I want everybody to put their 2 cents on this one.
I just want to say, my baby was born with this bump. It's it's a bump on his lip. And for the longest time, I was freaking out. It's oh my God, you gave my baby herpes. I took him to the doctor. Is that herpes on his lip? No, it's not herpes, man. Your son does not have herpes. Your son is fine. He still has that same type of bump on his lip to this day. It never went away. But I was a little bit nervous that I gave him herpes because I didn't know anything about herpes at the time. I'll pass it on over.
Alexandra.
Yeah. So here's the deal. I have oral herpes. I kiss my son every day. I kiss my husband every day, right? My husband doesn't have herpes. My son doesn't have herpes. I make that choice to say it's going to do far more harm not to kiss him than it is for him to get herpes. We have to remember what we're talking about is a skin disease that causes an annoying bump. What I'm potentially giving my child on the spectrum of things is absolutely nothing. What I could potentially, the damage I could potentially do with my child of not kissing him, I think is far worse. And not doing those hugs and cuddles and kisses and all those things that you do. I take baths with my little boy, all those little things that are just normal, natural mothering things. The other way that I look at it is, this is not something that I just have. I'm not the only person in his world that has it. There are many people in his life that he sees on a daily basis that have herpes. So they have oral herpes. So with that being said, this is something I can do everything I can do to keep my little baby in this bubble. And that popped when I had him, right? Like he's out. So he's going to be exposed to this daily, if not, maybe not daily, but throughout his life. Whether he'll get it or not, I don't know. Do I want to give it to him? No, of course not. But is that harm that I'm going to cause by not kissing him or not? If he wants to give me a piece of his food, of course I'll take a bite. Like, it's just part of it. I did have a scare though last summer. I've only had 2 oral outbreaks, so I'm pretty much asymptomatic. I've had it since 2003. So like, that's not a big deal. And I got one and I had kissed him and I freaked out. Absolutely freaked out, because I had just kissed him on his tummy. We were putting on his little onesie for bed and I freaked out. And I had those emotions of like, I don't deserve to be a mom. I don't deserve him. Like the emotions you feel when you're first diagnosed went back, and I think even heavier, because this is my child. So I understand. I'm sure Shayna, we all understand, like, oh my gosh, what if? Like, you freaked out, you went to the doctor. I get it. I just try to keep it in perspective that I'm not going to be able to protect him from this. He doesn't have it. Nothing happened, but just keep it in perspective.
Love that. Thank you. Cece, what can you offer?
Oh, I absolutely kiss my baby. I still kiss him to this day. And kisses, he's coming and returning them. I get one on each cheek and my forehead, like every night, and it's the best thing ever. And to refer back to HIV, I want to go ahead and clear up some misconceptions there. Kissing is not one of the ways that you would be able to transmit HIV. We know that HSV is a skin-to-skin contact and transfer, but HIV, you would get that through, sexual fluids, so vaginal fluids, semen, breast milk, blood, things like that. You're not going to get it through saliva. And even more so, I'm undetectable. So even if spit were one way that you could get it, like, I have no virus in my fluid, so we're not going to transmit it that way. So my baby is getting all the kisses. The last one did. Can't wait for her to get here, because she'll be getting plenty of them as well. And I loved what you said, Alexandra, about if we're doing a risk benefit assessment of this, I'm not going to withhold that from my baby. And I think what kind of put that into perspective for me, it came up in a conversation of breastfeeding and HIV for me. But a girl that was born with HIV, she was like, if I breastfed and I did, transmit HIV to my child, that really wouldn't be the end of the world, because then what are you saying about me? I grew up, I've had HIV my whole life, and it wasn't the end of the world. So like, you referred to, out of the big scope of things, it isn't the worst that could happen. We don't want it to. And of course, we're not intentionally setting out to do those things. But yes, kisses and hugs and cuddles, I'm all here for it.
Yes.
Just want to say that Mal calls my kisses the mommy attack, and he comes every morning with the mommy attack, okay?
Yes, mommy attack. That's amazing.
And skin to skin, because that's something too. We think that our whole body's infected, and we're not. It's just the area in which we get the outbreak. So that skin to skin time with a baby is really important. We still do skin to skin time every morning, right? And it just it's important. Where our whole body is not, even where we do have herpes, like, we're not. It's not like this like thing. Like it's yeah. Just enjoy.
Yes. Just enjoy. Thank you. Okay, so this question is for C. We'll have Cece lead off with this one, since she did mention earlier that she was on medication the entire time during her HIV medicine, the entire time during her pregnancy, and then started taking the HSV medicine later on, because that's another thing people ask. Like, do you take your medication the entire time? When do you start taking medication around, the time that you're giving birth? So just the whole medication spiel, Cece, if you want to start with what you experienced personally and what you know about it, what you can add to it.
Yeah, I learn so much from y'all daily. So of course, please, step in and correct me if I'm ever wrong. Okay, so my medicine is prescribed. Either I'll take it, I had the choice to take a pill every day or to just take it twice a day for 5 days when I'm having an outbreak. I have chosen to take it when I have an outbreak, and I haven't had to take medicine in a long time. So my outbreaks are very far and few in between. But just for precautionary measures during pregnancy, we started them at 36 weeks. And when I say that now, it sounds really weird because I didn't make it to 36 weeks with my son. I delivered him at 33 and a half weeks. So I want to say that I was not taking the meds at the time, and I still was able to give birth vaginally. And I believe that is all due to the fact of me not having an active outbreak at the time. I know that they examined, they made sure they looked and they saw, and, they gave me the green light to go ahead and have a vaginal birth. I'm so grateful. Although, in the middle of pushing, because it was so painful, I begged for a C-section. I don't know what I was thinking, but it's like, can I get a C-section? They're like, that's not how this works. But it definitely was not due to either virus. So pass it on to someone else.
Okay, thank you. And so you're actually currently pregnant. So you are our panelist that's literally currently pregnant. So you are
Show
not
the tummy. Show the tummy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a whole belly. Oh my God. It's
Baby
hard to
girl.
maneuver. Yes, we are 32 and 3.
Wonderful. So you currently you take your HIV medicine, but you're not taking anything for HSV right now.
Not yet. And I don't know if it's just I've been celibate and that wasn't where I was going with this, but I haven't had sex this whole year except for the one time I got pregnant. This is the best condition my vagina has been in, probably in the last 10 years of my life. Not putting anything into my body, not having any BV, no yeast infections. It's amazing. Okay. So, yes. But yes, I take my HIV meds daily, and I'm taking now 2 meds and a prenatal vitamin every day, because this is what has been shown effective to make sure that you stay undetectable while you're going through the pregnancy, and so that I'm undetectable at birth, because now it's my goal to not only give birth to this child vaginally, but to also be able to breastfeed. So that's where I'm going with it.
Thank you. Shayna, did you take any herpes medication while you were pregnant?
I think they gave me medication maybe in the 30s. Some week in the 30s, they gave me medication, and I did take it every single day because it was important to me to have a vaginal delivery. Again, it was still fresh. I didn't know anything about herpes. So I'm like, all right, give me this medication. I'm taking it every day. I was freaking out about everything down to when I was in labor. I'm like, I think I'm having an outbreak. It was a mess, okay?
Thank you. Alexandra, what about you?
Yeah, so it was interesting. My first trimester, I didn't have any outbreaks. So I went through IVF, which is in vitro fertilization. So I wasn't pregnant for longer than 9 months, but I felt it was like a 1.5-year journey to get to that point, because they retrieve your eggs, and that's a whole process. So just to give you an example, I had Clinton in 2020, and I started the whole process in 2018. So it's a long journey. So it's interesting during IVF, it's kind of like being pregnant. They pump you with a bunch of drugs, and I didn't have any outbreaks. It was like no big deal. If you do have an outbreak, I don't think it's a problem. I would just tell your doctor, ask your doctor what you should do. But had nothing going on with that. Then my first trimester, I really didn't have anything going on. Second trimester, I started getting a few outbreaks here and there, whatever. I personally decided not to take anything. My thought process with that was, you can't eat a turkey sandwich. So why would I put a drug in my body that I do not need? This is not like strep throat where I'd have to take an antibiotic. This is not that. This was an annoying little bump that will go away in like 3 to 5 days, whatever. So I used topical essential oils, tea tree oil to be exact. And I used that. My third trimester, I got lots of outbreaks. I started getting lots of outbreaks. And so I went on the daily antiviral, I think at 35 weeks. And so I went on it daily, 35 weeks until about the week I was going to deliver. And because he was going to be induced. And if you don't know what that means yet, you will. No, just kidding. Induced means that they basically pick the date that they're going to start labor for you. Doesn't mean your baby's being born that day. They're going to pick the date they're going to start labor. I started freaking out about it. So I started taking 500 milligrams in the morning and 500 milligrams in the evening, just because I started freaking out about it. Of course, I talked to my doctor about it. Again, just communicate all of this and do what's right for you. You know, personally, I wouldn't have risked having a vaginal birth had I not been on the antiviral. But unless it was like my oral herpes, where I only have had like 2 outbreaks in my entire life, I probably wouldn't thought anything about that. But yeah, I was having a lot of back-to-back outbreaks. So again, talk to your doctor and do what you feel is right.
I love that, because y'all all gave your unique advice. And so Alexandra said she might not have taken the risk if she wasn't on antivirals to have a vaginal birth. So can you guys give your inputs on a C-section versus a vaginal birth? I know that's another hot topic too. Do you automatically have to have a C-section? I know from listening, the answer is no, considering you all 3 had vaginal births, but just to explicitly put it out there, when you get the questions, do you have to have a C-section? Is one better than the other? What is your advice to women who are trying to figure out how they're going to deliver and bring their baby into the world? So for this one, we'll go with Shayna and then Cece, and then we'll have Alexandra wrap up this question.
Some doctors might tell you that you have to have a C-section, because I've had clients tell me that their doctor said that they have to have a C-section. I personally did not have a C-section. So yes, you can have a vaginal delivery and you can have a C-section. Again, I want to stress they're both normal. Don't let anyone make you feel any type of way, either way. 2, I just want to say I felt a little bit of guilt having my son vaginally. Choosing to have him vaginally and then having the vaginal birth, I was at the time too, just finding out I was dealing with this guilt of, is this a selfish decision? Am I already not protecting my son 100% just because I want to experience a vaginal delivery? Is my best option to protect him was to have a C-section, and I decline having that C-section? I was dealing with a lot of guilt, and I wanted to bring that up because I feel like other women deal with that guilt, and I would love to hear your input, you know, and your advice about that guilt. If I can zap back to my younger self from when I was pregnant, I still don't know what I would say to that version of me about the guilt. So my little transparent moment.
I would love for y'all to hear I would love, Cece, for you to answer your thoughts on a C-section versus a vaginal delivery, and also on speaking on that guilt, and if you shared it or any guilt that you might have had associated to your virus and your pregnancy.
So I'm really big on us having the choice and not allowing someone else to make the choice for us, whatever that is. And I think that stigma, what I'm hearing is guilt and internalized stigma, what Shayna is saying. But there's so much stigma also that comes from these medical providers and so many of their biases that come into those medical appointments and hospitals with them. And that can also often be a barrier, because if we look at the rates, I'm not exactly sure what they are for transmission of HSV during birth, but I can say for HIV during birth is very, very low. Like if it were something else that weren't STI related, they would call it negligible. So when we talk about like something like the vaginal births after C-sections, at some point they were suggesting that or recommending that you always, once you had a C-section, you always had to have a C-section after that. But at some point that was challenged and they realized that maybe you can, have a vaginal birth after a C-section. There's not much stigma around it. So people were offered the choice and we were able to talk about that. Something like HIV or, another STI, because there is a small percentage risk. I was told at the time that I gave birth that it was probably like a 2% or 1% chance that I would transmit the virus to my son during birth. Some doctors will hear that and automatically go, you have to have a C-section, when that is not the case. Give me the right, give me the choice to be able to make whatever decision is right for me. And that's where I'll always stand with that. The guilt now that I had, because I had doctors that supported my decisions, that I trusted to lead me. I didn't have guilt during delivery, but definitely after birth. And it came more when it was time for me to administer medication for HIV. We had made sure that the baby was herpes negative, and HIV negative at the time of birth. I hadn't transmitted anything, but now the baby has to be on antiretrovirals afterwards for HIV. And that had to happen for about 7 weeks after birth. And my child hated them. He cried, he threw up. So now we're both crying in the middle of the kitchen because I'm like, damn, if I would have never, contracted this virus, then you wouldn't have to go through this right now. And wow, why did I even have a kid? Sounding like some of the naysayers that always have something to say. And I began beating myself up again. So that is where I experienced my guilt and my stigma. And it definitely is something that presents itself at times, but I definitely have to just continue feeding myself with positive affirmations and remembering that I'm neither one of these viruses, and my child has escaped those, and so will this next one.
Yes, thank you, Cece. Alexandra, your thoughts?
Yeah, hearing Shanna talk about it, yeah, there is that guilt of like, oh, am I, because there's something that happens like the day you find out you're pregnant, you already switch to mama bear. And then when you have that baby, like you're different. I can't describe it. It's nature. Something clicks in of like, I have to protect this baby. That is my job. That is my only job on this planet, is to protect and provide for this baby, period. And I am this baby's life source. Like if I'm not healthy, the baby's not healthy. If I don't eat right, the baby doesn't eat health right. All those little factors go into it. Yes, there was some potential. Am I being selfish to want a vaginal delivery? I went back to millions and this virus is nothing new, right? It's been around for millions and millions of years, since humans have started walking this planet, this earth, and many mommies have it. And many mommies give birth, and many babies. We've obviously evolved through society. If there's any faith-based, I would say pray about it. Ask that there's guidance. Whatever is meant to be will meant to be. If I'm meant to have a C-section, then something else will come up during the delivery, because it's not, for those of you that haven't done it yet, it's not just this like, okay, I'll just kick back, I'll sit in the chair, and then it just wait. So potentially, if you're supposed to have a C-section, potentially something else will come up that will cause a C-section. But again, I think really go back to enjoy the process. If your baby, I talked to my doctor. I'm like, well, how many times have you had this with a mom that has herpes and had potentially had to have an emergency C-section because they had an outbreak, or had to switch to C-section because they had an outbreak. And he goes, I have not had one in 10 years. And that day I was his fourth delivery. Like, so we're talking somebody that's delivered hundreds of thousands, well, I don't know, hundreds of thousands, but thousands of babies, right? So this is not something that is, I guess, that common. If you are on the antiviral and you're communicating, my doctor assured me, he said, if you are on this antiviral and you've not had an outbreak within the week, he goes, I'm not going to risk it if it's 2 days, but within a week, you have less than 1% chance of transmitting herpes to your child. Also, I personally believe, and I'm not saying that a C-section is not a birth. That's not all I'm saying, but the natural way is going through the vagina. There's something that has to happen with their lungs, and the bacteria that's in our vagina helps improve their immune system. So I wanted to give them that opportunity. I felt that was also just as rewarding, or as important, like the risk versus reward, right? That part is also very important. And I'm not saying that having a C-section does not provide that for your child. That was just what I wanted. I've had many women say, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to have a water birth at home. Now I have herpes. I have to be in the hospital monitored. I was like, no, you can do whatever you want. You can go out in the forest and have a baby, like whatever you want to do. Again, this is your choice, but yeah, there was a little bit for a few days, and then you kind of work through it. It's a process. Any of those hormones, you don't even, oh my gosh.
I'm glad you brought up the 1%, because that's less than 1%, because I was going to make sure I said that stat, but you beat me to it. Less than 1% of mothers pass herpes to their babies during delivery. That's the statistic that exists. You have a higher chance of passing it if your herpes is new later on in your pregnancy. It increases because your immune system doesn't have the chance to fully recover because you're making a baby. So that will increase your chances. But altogether, as you can still see, you're taking antivirals weeks before you deliver, and you're being monitored. So just to recap, I think it's super important that you get the care that you need. Cece brought that great point up, like make sure your care team is serving you and meeting your needs. I think that was a great takeaway. I mean, Alexandra, I know it's so, we hear so many times like, well, everybody have to know I have herpes. So just, that code word, that might be something that someone needed to hear, that they're going to carry on and they're going to pass along when they get pregnant. They might be pregnant. They want to implement that into their birth plan. Like, okay, I do want to have this code word, and establishing that and really being forthcoming with your herpes day one. When you found out you're pregnant or you're at your doctor's appointment, talk to your doctor about your herpes and make sure you're completely comfortable. And then Shayna, just all the things that you shared, from realizing how many people find out they have herpes and are pregnant on the same day, and just all the things you did not get a chance to fully experience because of the fact that you found out about both of them on the same day, and how that affected your pregnancy. So thank you, ladies, for your transparency. I want you guys to each, to wrap up on this, to give one piece of advice to yourself. If you could go back now that you are all at least mommies of one, Cece, you can even speak to yourself, your current self, since you're at a point now where you're about to give birth to your second child. What piece of advice would you give yourself being here right now to your pregnant self, anywhere along your pregnancy? It can be in the beginning, it can be towards the end, but share what you would tell yourself, and you can say your goodbyes, and then we'll wrap up on that. But I just want to say really quick that I appreciate you all for being here, and this has been an amazing conversation. I know it's going to be super impactful, and thank you. So we will have Alexandria go, and then Cece, and then we'll close with Shayna.
Yeah, well, something that popped into my mind as you were wrapping up, and I was thinking, I wanted to say, like, you're not special because you have herpes. Like we think like, oh my gosh, I have herpes. It's like not something that's like unique. It's not like, whoa, this is the first time they've ever seen it on the labor and delivery floor. Like, there's probably so many other moms that are giving birth at the same time that you are on the same floor that have herpes too. So this is not something that's like, ooh, right? So just keep that in mind. But as far as pregnancy, and honestly, it has nothing in my mind when you were asking, like, what's one piece of advice? Herpes has nothing to do with it. Enjoy that experience of creating life in your body. Not everybody gets to experience that. And it's an absolute beautiful, beautiful, incredible thing. It's you have life inside of you, and you are creating this beautiful child. So enjoy every day and just try and keep yourself as healthy as possible so that you can provide for this baby, not worry about herpes outbreaks, but like, how can I provide for this child right now?
Yes, take care of yourself. As long as you're doing what you're supposed to do, everything will be all right. There are so many other things that we could focus on at this point. So what I'm choosing to focus on is just next week I'll be the furthest pregnant I've ever been in my life. And I'm so excited about that. And each of these children are handpicked for us. Like, they are chosen. We are the best parents for them. And if I thought anything different, I would say it. So yes, enjoy where you have been chosen to be.
If I have anything to end off with, is your baby deserves a happy mommy. They deserve that. And my son is the reason why I was able to break the stigma in my own life. Because once I realized that my energy directly impacted his energy, I did everything in my power to make sure I protected my peace. And through that, I learned how to love myself unconditionally. And I was able to break the stigma in my life because of my son. So enjoy the moment, enjoy your pregnancy. Don't be like me. Enjoy your pregnancy. This is a special moment, and it's very short-lived. So yeah, that's all I have. Herpes can never.